Search and tech news and analysis for the integrated digital marketer. Find it here every week on SEM Synergy from the team at Bruce Clay Inc. Join your hosts and leading search and social media marketing pros to find your winning digital marketing formula. Get the latest news, trends, and analysis in SEO, PPC, web design, content, and social media. Now welcome your hosts, an elite internet marketing team built by the founding father of SEO and accomplished search engine marketing scholar, Bruce Clay Incorporated.
Welcome to SEM Synergy. I'm Duane Forrester, and you're listening to this week's podcast for digital marketers. Today, I'm here with Virginia Nussey.
Thanks, Duane. So we have a great show for you today, and I also would point people to Search Talk Live, fun podcast for digital marketers. Those guys over there, Robert O'Haver and Caleb McElveen. They interviewed you last week, and you got a chance to talk about search over the next 10 years. Futures research is like kind of a passion of yours.
Oh, absolutely. I got exposed to this at Microsoft, and I'm going to admit this. You know, when you're lucky enough to be in a company like that, you get exposure to all kinds of projects that are very forward-facing and may not have anything to do with search, but it's amazing to see the type of R&D they do and the thinking and the directions. And it kind of got this passion going, and that blossomed up. And there's a small group of us that have some future-facing conversations every month or so. We get together online and just share ideas. And when Robert and Caleb tracked me down and said, hey, we'd love to have you on the show, I was excited about it. I'm obviously a big fan of the show. And I said, would you, could we do this like maybe 10 years looking out to see what businesses need to focus on? They love the idea, and it's so much fun doing the show. We're actually right now planning another date in October.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah.
People can listen to that episode at searchtalklive.com. And one of the topics that you talked about on the show was Yahoo's acquisition by Verizon, and kind of got us thinking about an episode where we talk about the headlines in digital marketing this week. So that's what we're going to do for you today. Let's start it off with that Verizon acquisition.
Yeah, that's probably the deal of the century right there. This is fascinating. I mean, if you remember back a few years ago, Microsoft had offered something like 45 or 48 billion with a capital B for Yahoo. And Yahoo stated that, no, we believe we are worth far more. And now we have Verizon purchasing Yahoo for 4.8 billion, decimal in the middle, significantly lower price point. However, that doesn't include Yahoo's patents, and it does not include their investment in Alibaba, that huge pile of money that they're sitting on with that investment. But this is, I think, a really smart play for Verizon. It takes Verizon into a completely different direction, and they become a completely different company with this move. It's no longer just about being a telco and a mobile service provider. They now actually have a completely different model. And, from their perspective, pressure is very low. The expectations are low with this. Yahoo has been on a mild but dedicated spiral that has been negative over the last few years. It's kind of a shame. The CEO was always under scrutiny. Everyone expected huge things. And while trying to execute all of these things as they weren't working, that kind of pressure doesn't help any kind of situation. But being under the microscope is difficult. Not saying that's the reason why things went the way they did. There are many other factors. However, it does put Verizon in this enviable position of being able to not really have to deliver a whole lot out of the gate. So they've got their time they need to do things like Yahoo has not been able to fully maximize on mobile advertising, and to the extent, say, Facebook and Google have. So AOL has a brand new, slick mobile advertising system that they built.
Which we should mention is owned by Verizon as well.
Just before Verizon bought them. And so now Verizon's in a position to use that ad serving system from AOL across all of its people that it has in all of these areas. And they've got something like 113 million users now. Like, this is a really big group of people, and advertisers are going to want to be in front of those.
We've been saying search or the web experience is about mobile, so the fact that Verizon is
absolutely
buying search engine.
I mean, on one hand, you want to scratch your head and you say, wait, you're a telephone company. Why would you, this isn't in your wheelhouse. Well, it turns out it is actually directly in their wheelhouse because it's all about the people. It's all about those consumers. And so on so many levels, this makes great sense. Awesome opportunity for Verizon. They just need to kind of connect some of their own dots and make some things happen. I expect over the next 2 to 5 years that we'll see that this is kind of the future for large companies like Verizon, possibly AT&T. I'm hoping they step up, and I don't know who they're going to buy, but these opportunities, I think, are going to prove to be the way forward for these large mobile providers.
I suppose Google's AMP project, which is like a content delivery network,
yes,
kind of speaks to, Verizon being a content delivery network.
Yeah. So if you and this is a great point, Virginia, because if you look at AMP in light of this, now it suddenly starts to take on more of a dedicated long-term, this may be what our future looks like, as opposed to a let's try this experiment and see if it all works. And that's a very prescient moment for Google. And I don't believe that they had any notion that this would happen. It was a logical bet to go down this path. But now suddenly there is an expanding need for that type of approach. And I think it's really going to extend the life of that project. It will just continue. So marketers, pay attention. You better be mobile optimized, first and foremost.
Deeply.
Yes. Not an option.
All right, let's switch to another headline. Google has acquired Envato. It's a platform for encoding, editing, and publishing and distributing a video. It's going to go into Google's cloud platform team. So another video platform, editing included. What does this mean for YouTube, for example?
Yeah, this was an interesting one. And it kind of got me thinking, because on first blush, it's tempting to just look at this and say, oh, wait, so they just bought out a competitor for YouTube and they're just going to, silo it off into Nowheresville and then eventually do a write down on it as a business sale and, take the tax advantage. And I don't think that's the case at all. I mean, YouTube is obviously a very well-established player in the field, but YouTube has limits, and YouTube is not designed to be an editing suite first and foremost for your digital video content. And this is a different play. This is you're in the cloud, you can work in the cloud, you can manage things in the cloud, you can do all of that there. So Microsoft is very aware of the value of the cloud based on businesses. Businesses are aware of the savings and value the cloud brings to them. So there's clearly the quote cloud is the long-term play for everyone. Google understands that if it can embed usefulness in the cloud, it will attract people. And this could be the beginnings of a play to kind of get into the Snapchat-esque style area, because now you have a scenario where anyone can have space on the cloud and access these services and these tools and build things easily that allow for that competition to come up. And it's all built on the backbone of Google. So they are intrinsic to it. They get the user base. They get access to the data. They get revenue. So there's a lot to this, I think, because, and I've heard people say this, it's like, well, if you own YouTube, why would you do something else like this? And there's a lot of reasons to do that. And not least of which is, how old is YouTube? I mean, that technology is aging. And this is fresh out of the box. This is brand new stuff. This is new thinking, new approaches, new everything. And so there does come a time where it's faster to market, means a lot, and it's easier for you to buy your next step forward than to try to evolve it.
So we could probably, does it sound like you're saying that you could expect YouTube to kind of get an update due to this?
Oh, I would hope so. I don't know that would necessarily be the case, because often
I use YouTube to edit.
Yeah,
and I know a
exactly.
lot of people do.
Exactly. But the challenge with this is there is an extremely high probability that Envato is built on a completely different stack. And I've seen this firsthand. When you take something that's a great idea that somebody built and you own it and you think, I'm just going to integrate it over here, it doesn't integrate. Yeah. So then what happens is a gigantic reverse engineering project, which is hugely costly in terms of man hours, in terms of time investment, and you don't necessarily get that money and investment back on the reverse engineering to then make your product better. So that's where you have to sit down at some point and say, does it make sense for us to simply create something new in a new space, and then take those ideas, put them into our work pipeline over here at YouTube, and then evolve YouTube as we naturally would.
Okay. So there are a few search ad related headlines that we reported in the last SEO newsletter. One of them is that the expanded text ads that were announced at the Google Performance Summit in May, they're now live. So your ads are a little bit longer in Google search. And also, Google AdWords ads may appear with their headline truncated in the search results. Kind of like both sides of the coin there.
Yeah. Yeah, this has that slight whiff of ads above the fold, but if you're running AdSense, how does that impact you? It's one of those moments in time where we're kind of being told what seems to be contradictory information, but I think they both make sense, and here's why. I don't think that this has a major impact in the world of desktop. I mean, yeah, you get a little bit more on one, and maybe if you go too long on it, it gets truncated. That's fine. Those are all things that we can work with. Marketers will exploit the added length to be able to offer clearer, more direct messaging and more enticement and better call to action. And if something's truncated, it's a pretty clear signal to you that you need to kind of rein it in a little bit. I think where this ultimately accrues is in the mobile environment. When I'm staring at something on my phone, how do things show up there? And if you are intent on driving mobile revenue, you need to have ads that are engaging. So offering a little more space to be able to showcase more of the message on a mobile device does a couple of things. One, it engages the consumer at a deeper level, but it also means that because of the finite amount of screen space that you will have fewer ads being shown, kind of a nice nod to the user experience. It also very handily drives up cost per click, making Google more money on every mobile transaction or tap on an ad that happens. And so I think that there is a bit of a longer term play on that as this manifests across mobile.
I think this is a good time to mention we are pretty proud to announce that Bruce Clay Inc. has earned the premier Google partner status. We've been a Google partner for some time. Being a premier partner means that we've shown that we are managing significant budgets and growing customer base for clients. So kudos to us.
Yeah, no, this is a testament to the team here and the hard work they do. It's a testament to everyone from Bruce right through to our clients of being able to understand what the vision is, stay focused on it. We don't get here unless our clients are willing to do this, and we don't get here unless we are successful for our clients. So it's truly a win for everyone. It's nice for us to get the giant crystal tchotchke and the plaque, and we very much appreciate it. For me, the moment of pride comes that this is another form of justification on top of our clients saying, we've had a huge month, thank you.
Our team does work very awesome.
Yes.
For our clients there in the PPC department.
Yeah. And don't forget, guys, I'm still looking to hire a pay-per-click manager, looking for an SEM manager, so you can check out the site if you think you've got the chops.
Yes, LinkedIn, our company page there is where we've got that job listing posted, so do check it out. I wanted to throw in one more AdWords headline here, Duane. According to research by Merkle, AdWords advertisers are paying higher average cost per clicks for branded keywords on phones, approximately 25 to 30% higher now than in early May, which is just a matter of months compared to tablets or desktops.
Yeah, this one's kind of fascinating, right? As we see this march of mobile continue to grow, we see trends where users are not flipping their phones as frequently. The average ownership period now is extending past 2 years for a device. That means that purchasing is slowing down. That means that people are staying with their platforms longer. It is truly a sign that mobile is the place to be. And the net effect of that is what we're seeing, which is when you get good at doing advertising, right? And Facebook is really good at this now, as evidenced by all of their revenue numbers. You can extract a fair amount of revenue out of this if you're doing it correctly. And I think what we're seeing here is we're actually seeing that these branded companies are kind of fighting each other out for things. And there's starting to be a bit of share of mind war that's happening. And it's manifesting in higher cost per clicks.
Does it have anything to do with fewer ads being shown on a mobile?
I think there is this. There's fewer ads as well. And it's a very... This playing field is what I would consider to be the Wild West of our internet right now. There's still a lot about it that's being experimented with and tested out. And so I would expect this to continue to happen. Of course, the providers, the ad providers, the platforms are happy to have the CPCs go up, because once everyone gets used to those higher costs in the future, any incremental cost is just more revenue to the business, but there's no slow burn to get to the revenue. You're already there. And so I don't think you're going to see anyone looking at this saying, hey, this isn't fair, really. From a brand's perspective, they're simply looking to consolidate and protect the space. That's what they want on their brand. And if they have to spend more to protect that space for their brand, they feel that's a reasonable thing to do, and they're budgeting up for it. I'm not saying they like it, but it's the reality, and they're playing with that.
So many changes with mobile and different search engines moving around. We have some more headlines coming up, including what the heck is going on with redirects, news out of Google last week. Stick around for more SEM Synergy after this break from our sponsors.
Don't go away. SEM Synergy will be right back.
Hey, this is Danny Sullivan to talk to you about Bruce Clay Incorporated. They've made Inc. magazine's list of growing private businesses and have exhibited and sponsored at my conferences since the very beginning. You've seen their search engine relationship chart, or you've read their SEO code of ethics, so you know they're SEO experts. But did you know they can help you with PPC, web analytics, web design, marketing strategy, promotion, and branding? Yep, get everything you need for success in the online marketplace. You can check it out from the professionals at Bruce Clay Incorporated. For over 10 years with offices worldwide, they've got the answers you need. Check them out today at bruceclay.com.
Do you look at the task of ranking your site at the top of the search engines like you would climbing the top of Mount Everest? It doesn't have to be. TopSEOs.com knows how hard that climb can be, and they can make top ranking a reality. Top SEOs sends you to only the right search vendors and agencies that they know will work for you. Since 2002, TopSEOs.com has reviewed and researched the best search engine marketing agencies and solutions providers. Don't risk the cost of falling off the proverbial peak of search rankings. Let Top SEOs give you peace of mind. TopSEOs.com, the independent authority on search vendors.
Are you paying too much for your paid advertising? Or have you quit altogether because it seemed like a huge waste of money? I'm David Ogletree, president of WME Training. Did you know that companies waste 25% of their PPC spend on average? At WME Training, we can show you how to make your AdWords account a lean, mean, converting machine. Whether you're just starting out or want to take your skills to the next level, we have a class for you. Contact the marketing experts at WMEtraining.com.
Search and tech news and analysis for the integrated digital marketer. You're listening to SEM Synergy, only on Cranberry Radio. Once again, your hosts from Bruce Clay Inc.
And we're back. I'm Duane Forrester, and just as before, I'm here with Virginia Nussey, and we're going to be sharing my and Virginia's takes on digital marketing headlines over the last week.
That's right. So much happening. And like we promised before the break, there's news about redirects. According to Gary Eash, Google's Webmaster Trends analyst, he posted on Twitter that 302 redirects don't lose PageRank anymore. Is this news?
Not news to me, that's for sure. We've been seeing a lot of play in the industry this week about this, a lot of talk about it and what have you. Fascinating part of this is several years ago, Matt and I had open conversations about this at conferences, and it's been for a while common knowledge that Bing passes this. That's not an issue. And if you think about the logic behind the redirects, there's no reason for it to not pass the value, whether it's a 301 or a 302. If, in fact, the 302 manifests as a temporary move for content, then yes, there shouldn't be anything passed through it. The engine will see that. But if you put a 302 up and it's been static for 6 months, it's a reasonable assumption for the engine to assume that you meant 301 and pass the value. That's like me suggesting that I trust you today, Virginia, because you're standing here in a pair of jeans and a sweater, and tomorrow you come in a dress, and I don't trust you tomorrow because you're dressed differently. You're still the same person. You're still trustworthy. I trust you both days. And I believe that is the manifest way that the redirects have been handled for years at the engines. There's no question in my mind about that. Although, as is usual, it's very fascinating to see the interwebs light up like an electrical storm when something like this is mentioned by one of the guys at Google.
Okay, well, there's the no news.
Yeah.
Here's another headline. Local knowledge panels in Google now include the amount of time people typically spend at a local business.
This is huge. I mean, this is amazing. I love this, you know. This one piece of information allows a business owner, a local business owner, to now understand something. If you have ever spent time at a casino, you're familiar with this concept of the Players Club card, the affinity program, where you spend money and it accrues a small amount of value on the card, and then you use that for free parking, free drinks, whatever. Okay? The calculations behind all that are called life-to-date theoretical, and it's a projection of what the person's value to the business will be over the lifespan of the person. So, if the casino knows that you will spend $10,000 a week and that you represent an average lifespan of 5 years engaged with their business, they're probably going to give you a little more than free parking because you're worth it to them. If, however, you are entirely transient, your zip code at home doesn't match the zip code of the casino, you're going to get exactly nothing because there's a high probability they'll never see you again. So all business owners come into this line of thinking, right? They have their regulars and they have their transients. So if, however, you can look at this data and you can understand that the average person spends 5 minutes when they go to the coffee shop and you run a coffee shop, now you can understand how much time you have to engage with that person, get them to buy your product, and get them to become a fan of you to entice them to come back. And 5 minutes is a lot of time for that. And I don't mean 5 minutes because I'm standing in line waiting and it's 4 minutes and 30 seconds of doing nothing. But even if it is, you can have the right signage in place. You can be offering things to people. Hey, here's a free sample while you wait. All of these kinds of ideas to build that affinity with your actual business. Now, if we start overlaying things like beacons, well, now we've got a really interesting statistic to pull from, because I don't want people who are in and out. I don't want people that are only here for 30 seconds and not going to buy anything. I want people who are going to be in my store for at least 10 minutes, because I know if they're in here for at least 10 minutes, I'll have a chance to talk to them and they'll buy something from me. And now this data point becomes hugely valuable to a business trying to understand. It's like doing that psychographic targeting that we all love across Facebook and finding the 5 people who want to buy your high-priced item versus the 5,000 people who click on it but don't buy it, right? It starts to allow us to get into that type of granularity. That's why I'm so excited about this one.
It is exciting for marketers. And from a consumer's perspective, I've always enjoyed the little graph on a local business knowledge panel that says when it's busy.
Yes. Yeah, definitely love that, especially for restaurants. I'm a big fan of the late lunch, and so it's awesome to know that your business tapers off at 2 o'clock because, hey, that's when I'm going to roll in.
Yeah, but this is definitely a big win for the business owner.
Agreed.
Okay, how about the comment by John Mueller in an office hours hangout, that's a Google Webmaster Analyst, that there's no ranking advantage to removing older content if the content is quality, is the caveat.
Yeah, this is another one of those, what the heck were they thinking when they asked it moments, I think. This is not anything that would shock anyone who's been around the web for a while. I'm sure we're missing some context because I wouldn't even class our information about this as third-hand. Maybe fourth-hand information. We weren't part of the original conversation. We don't know what the original ask was. Perhaps the context makes it a little more logical to me. However, on the surface of it, I'm kind of scratching my head saying, yeah, this one's pretty straightforward. But the takeaway from this one, and John alludes to this, if he doesn't delve into it very much, and I love his use of the English language in this case, and it's, to quote John, you might consider trimming your site if you have really terrible, old, and crufty content. And that's really the big takeaway here, okay? It's the quality quotient. So if you went on a spree a while back, say 4 years ago, when targeting long tail with thin content was the thing to do, yeah, you probably want to clean all that up because that would be a shining example of crufty content. If, however, you've always taken the long game approach and you've always built engaging long-form content and whatnot, I'm not going to debate, the short form versus long form here, but what I am going to tell you is that unique investment you made Not something you necessarily need to clean up or get rid of. Do you want to repackage it? Maybe. Are you having page load issues? Then you should probably look into that. Do you have database size problems? Then you want to be aware of that. Is it leading to crawlability issues across your site? Then you fix it. You may be a prime candidate for a massive 30X campaign because you want to reorganize stuff. That's totally fine. But there's not a lot to this one, I don't think. It's fairly straightforward. Get rid of the garbage, keep the good. That's the baseline with this one.
Okay. Cool new feature alert. Bing now includes thumbnails in its auto-suggestion option. I'm assuming this is a thumbnail of the page, kind of like a preview?
Yeah, and this is interesting. Bing has pretty much since its launch been a very visual experience. I hand in the air, I still use Bing as my homepage because I love the daily image. I love seeing what's in there, and sometimes being surprised that I know the place, I've been to the place, or I'm somehow connected with it. I love that moment. And this, to me, is a natural expansion on this, okay? We were having a conversation, one of our clients, and we were talking about the phrase CMS. Now, we and the listeners on the show will recognize CMS as Content Management System. It's also an acronym in the healthcare industry. And so when you look at a Google search result for this, you see this clear mixed bag of results, right? Where out of 10 items, 7 are Content Management System and 3 are related to the healthcare industry. So it's clear that Google is trying themselves to get you to disambiguate what you meant by giving you this mixed bag. And so I think Bing takes a really good step with this, where it will actually show you that thumbnail, because there are plenty of times where you'll have a brand in mind, but you may not state the brand, or you would know it if you saw it, that type of moment. Mm-hmm. And so this allows you to see it, and then the disambiguation happens at the click, which means on render of the SERP, everything is perfectly aligned with your expectations. So that's a really nice quality step forward, I feel.
Give it a test.
Yes.
Okay, final headline of the day. Snapchat has introduced Memories. It's a new part of the app that lets you access your photos, videos, and stories that you've saved to your camera roll. Saving Snapchats to your camera roll? Are they changing everything?
Yeah, I remember when I first encountered Snapchat all those years ago, and I thought, wow, that's dangerous if you're a parent, because you've got all this opportunity. Short video, send it to a friend, the whole thing's implode, they just evaporate. Which then I started asking myself, do they really evaporate? Because we all know that the value and the currency today is the data, it's the information. So you start asking that, and then the whole thing comes out to the light that it's not truly erased, it's kind of erased. We've come up with a new definition for the word erased. And so there was all that fluff. It's perfectly fine. They're compliant with what they need to be compliant with, and I like the service. This, however, is feeling like an expansion. This feels like, I was a restaurant and now I've added a bakery. Complementary in some ways, but clearly not what you were as a core entity. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they can move their user base, and if this is enough to spur growth and attract new people to come to them. If we flash back to the beginning of all of this, where we talked about Yahoo and Verizon and these 113 million odd people that they all have access to right away, Snapchat, all of these companies have that same thing, right? I need more people, I need more eyeballs, I need to grow this. How do I be more enticing? And I think this is a reasonable shot to give this a try to see what happens. Like so many things, we got to keep an eye on it. I read a statistic this morning that Pokemon Go is already starting to flatline, that the growth curve is done and behind us, and that's it. And for the record, I have yet to see any of them in the wild.
Pokemon players?
Haven't seen a single one.
Everywhere. Well, if you go to the right parks, or, set up a Pokestop or a trap.
Yeah, no.
I was at the Ventura Pier the other day, and just like 40, 50 people, as far as I could see, were just staring down into their phones. So there must have been something there. But
it's engaging, and this is the sort of thing, not at that scale, but this is the sort of thing that Snapchat's trying with this, right? It's another form of engagement, right? There is a big pull with nostalgia. Even if it's near-term nostalgia, there's a big pull from that, that I want to relive that moment. I had a good time last weekend, and I remember that. I want to relive that moment,
Right.
and that's really powerful for us as human beings.
So that brings us to the end of our time today. Let us know if you liked hearing the news from our perspective. We're at Bruce Clay Inc. on social media, and Duane is at Duane Forrester. Go ahead and subscribe if you want new episodes delivered straight to your listening app. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. Now we're on SoundCloud. Connect with Bruce Clay Inc. on social all over the web. See you next time on SEM Synergy.